guys, what's up? It's Jess, aka Stressinabox, aka Axolotl Queen of TikTok. Yeah, I'm gonna own that title. That's what I'm gonna do today. We have been going over a lot of different things here on my YouTube channel, but I thought today we could actually talk about something you guys want to hear about, and that is my axolotl Remi. How I got Remi. That's the first thing we gotta start off with today. So Remi is actually a rescue. I hope you guys know that I do rescue axolotls. I take them from really crappy situations and I nurse them back to health. So last year in October of 2018, I went to a reptile expo in Tinley Park, Illinois. And on my way back from that expo, I stopped by a locally owned pet shop. I actually did go in with intending to buy like some Seachum Prime and some filters for my setups here at home, but it went a little bit south on that trip. This store had a huge aquatic section, so of course I grabbed my filters, I grabbed my Prime, and I was like, let's go look at the fish, it'll be fun. The next thing I knew, my sister was calling me over to this tank and there was 3 axolotls in it. What was going on in this tank was 10 different levels of neglect. I hate going into pet shops and being like this annoying know-it-all person, but when I'm going into a pet shop and I see an animal that literally is about to die, I'm gonna say something. So we called over a sales associate and I kind of talked to him and I explained to him what was going wrong in the tank, and I just asked, can I take them home and, you know, rehab them and, you know, bring them back to health, because these guys were literally that close to death. Look at the photos, you can tell. So I worked out a deal with the sales associate on paying the wholesale price for them, which is basically I paid them for what they paid their supplier. Honestly, I wish I could have gotten them for free, and I have returned to that pet shop a couple times in the past and taken them for free, but this was my first time dealing with that pet shop and I didn't want to piss anybody off. That's why I worked out paying the minimum wholesale agreement. If you go into a pet shop and you see an animal that is in poor condition, I always say do not pay for them. And here is why. A lot of people are saying it's heartless, not wanting to take an animal out of the situation, but if you pay for that animal, especially if you're paying full price, the full listed price, even 50% off for that animal, you are basically telling them that even though they're neglecting the animal and putting it in a situation where that animal is going to die, they can still make a profit off of it. So if you're gonna go and rescue animals from pet shops, either make sure you're getting these animals for free, explaining this animal is sick, you should not be selling it, or try and work out a deal where you can pay the wholesale price, where you're basically paying what they paid to get the animal brought in general. And that's basically just so that store does not make a profit on this sick animal. Back on track here. They were the second worst condition axolotls I'd ever gotten in. I mean, one of them was actually in decent shape, but 2 out of the 3 that I got were the second worst case of neglect that I'd ever had walk through my door. And it was awful. It was a whole process of waking up every day wondering, are they gonna be alive when I walk into the rescue room? Getting home from work, walking into the room, wondering if they were gonna be dead. Luckily there was they hadn't eaten any gravel, there was no signs of impaction. They were eating, they were putting on weight so fast. I was feeding them a lot of fatty foods to try and get the weight up on them, and also mixing it with some very nutritious foods. And things like that. They were getting like the junk food of the axolotl community, but then they were also getting like the actual healthy, nutritious foods that they needed to gain back their strength. So I was fattening them up and also getting them their strength back. So basically I nursed them back to health. 2 out of the 3 ended up getting rehomed to fantastic families that had experience with them, or if they didn't have experience with them, they listened to me and I helped them with their setup and I helped them cycle their tank and all this stuff to get them ready to go. And then I had Remi. Remi, out of the 3 of them, for some reason, was one I was really attached to from day one. There was just something about him that I don't know, I fell in love with. I don't know why, I can't explain it. It's just like when you see the pet that belongs with you, you know that it belongs with you, and that's how I felt with Remi. And he honestly just had this really fun and quirky personality that I had never seen in axolotl before. He had a way about him where he was like, I'm in charge, but also was kind of like, I'm stupid at the same time. Like, I am the smartest but dumbest axolotl in this tank. It was literally what his aura is. I actually did try to rehome him a couple times, because that's what I try to do with every rescue. Instead of keeping them, I try to rehome them, even when the internet gets attached. I'm sorry, but I actually did try to rehome him, and his adoptions just kept falling through. Like, He, I think, had lined up with like 3 different owners that were gonna take him. So his last adoption fell through, and to me that was kind of like the divine intervention saying, Jess, you cannot rehome him, you are his home. So about a month after his last rehoming fell, he got sick, and I'm gonna insert some clips here as they become relevant. He started favoring one side and kind of floating on his side, and it just was not normal axolotl behavior. He was unable to swim straight. He was doing barrel rolls when he was swimming. He was unable to really control his body movements and things like that. I reached out to some experts in the axolotl community, plenty of knowledgeable owners in the axolotl community to reach out to before taking the step to go to the vet. So I'm going to stress that. A lot of times, issues that you have with your axolotls can be treated at home, like constipation, air bubbles, fungus. A lot of that can be treated at home, especially when the animal doesn't seem like they're in distress or like they're in pain. I'll do a video on that eventually, but I want to stress that I was not making the wrong decision in trying to treat at home. It was the right decision at the time. Basically, the first thing that I thought, and the responses I got on these posts I was making, was, oh, he's probably constipated. So I took him out of his tank and I kept him in a quarantine tub and kind of just waited to see if he had any bowel movements, and he did. So obviously not constipated. Reached back out to these forums and was like, okay guys, it's not option A, what is option B? Then we decided, okay, maybe he has an air bubble. So I treated for an air bubble, which is basically like he swallowed air and he couldn't pass it. And basically the treatment for that is to overfeed the shit out of them and keep them in shallow water in a tub. So that's what I did. It got to the point where 6 weeks had gone by and there was no improvement. He was still floating on his side. He was still doing barrel rolls. He was still really unable to control his movements. So I decided to make the decision to take him to an exotic vet. I had hit my point where I was like, I don't know what's going on. I wasn't sure how to treat him anymore. At this point, people were starting to suggest it could have been something like a bacterial infection or things like that, so I took him to the vet. So he went to the vet and they prescribed him Baytril, which they just kind of assumed that he was having some sort of infection, which is what other axolotl people in the community were thinking as well, is that like if it's not constipation or air bubble, he probably has an infection. But a week had gone by and he was on the Baytril and he went to the vet. And at the time I swore there was improvement. I was like, yeah, he's doing so much better. So they put him on Baytril for another week. On top of that, they also prescribed, I think it was Meloxicam. And like looking back, I think I at the time thought there was some improvement, but I think it was kind of like the placebo effect happening to me, where like I was giving him medicine so I thought he was getting better. But like looking back on it now, like there really wasn't a whole lot of improvement from when he started the Baytril to when we took him off the Baytril. So he had been on Baytril for 2 weeks at this point and the Meloxicam for 1 week, and I took him back in, and again there was no improvement. At that point, the vet that I was seeing was like, well, we don't know what's wrong with him. So they went through all these things that it could be, and honestly just kind of admitted that like they didn't have a whole lot of experience with axolotls and they just really had no idea what was going on. I decided to go ahead and get a second opinion from a second vet. So I went to a second vet and got a second opinion, and we ruled out a lot of things that we thought it could be. So it wasn't an air bubble, it wasn't constipation, it wasn't a bacterial infection, it wasn't a fungal infection, it wasn't parasites. Like we had all this stuff ruled out. By this point of going and getting the second opinion at the second vet, he was actually showing a lot of improvement just on his own in general. And whatever it was, like we knew it wasn't contagious. So I finally was like, hey, what are your thoughts on me putting him back in the big tank with the other boys that I have, the other males that I have? Put him in there, monitor him for a couple days and see how he does. So I plopped him back in the tank, which at the time was in the bottom. Like this is the male tank now, but at the time was the bottom tank, so it's been switched. He got put back in and he was perfectly fine. He did great. He was flourishing in there, but he still had a lot of control issues. Like he still does barrel rolls. He can't really swim, so he kind of just hangs out on the bottom of the tank and walks around more than he really does swim. So I again reached out to the second vet that I was seeing and was like, okay, so I know we know what it's not, but what could it be? Can we like kind of narrow it down to what this could be? After talking with her and going over his records and really just getting into it with this conversation, it was neurological. Like what's going on with him is something in his brain. There's 2 options it could have been. One, he hit his head really, really hard and gave himself brain damage, which when an axolotl scares itself, it does move really fast. Sometimes when it's eating, it'll thrash around. So that's entirely possible. and actually like what we're leaning toward. But the other option was that he did have a bacterial infection, and that this infection was eating away at a nerve in his brain. He still leans to the left a lot, and he is unable to really swim. So if I take him out and I put him in a bucket or a tub for a water change, he can't really control himself. He spazzes out. He does these barrel rolls. He just freaks out. So I actually have to like put him, like stabilize him with my hands so he calms down. So basically, such a long freaking story. Yeah, that is the story of Remi. I hope that, you know, sheds some light. He is probably the most interesting axolotl that I own. Like, story-wise, he has the most insane story and the most crazy life journey that he's been through. The reason I wanted to make this video is just because there's so many people who are a fan of Remi and love Remi, but don't understand where Remi came from, and his backstory is just so amazing and to me just inspirational. My cat's running around. I do have merch out. I'm not wearing it, but here is a photo of my merch. So if you are interested in buying any of my merch, I'll put the link down below. So that is it for this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed learning something about Remi today. So that is it for this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed learning something about Remi today, and I look forward to making more videos just like this one in the future.